Devon Energy stock. Ticker symbol is DVN. Currently costs $45 per share. Pays a dividend 4 times per year. Each dividend is for about 20 cents per share. It's also been paying a lot of special dividends recently, some of which are double the regular dividend. The next ex-dividend date is the 8th of December. We just had one go by in September. Currently has a 10% dividend yield, and although different sources say different figures for the dividend payout ratio, I have yet to see any that say that the dividend payout ratio is unsustainable, but it does range between 10 and 30% I've seen. One single source I saw said 60%, but we'll have a quick look at it and see if it's worth the risk for the high dividend yield. So I started my position on the 21st of June of 2021, and I'm currently 89% up. However, I only bought about €5 worth, so not great, but that's one catch about this strategy that I use, which is when you have big run-ups like this, it's only for a tiny amount of the overall value. But the same thing applies if a stock goes to zero, it's only a tiny amount of the overall value. So it lowers the risk, but it also lowers the reward. Anyway, Devon Energy is an independent energy company, and their business is oil, natural gas, and natural gas liquids. So I'll leave these details up here if you want to have a quick read through them. But it's a reasonably large company, 1,800 employees. It's obviously in the energy sector, based in the United States. At the moment, the stock market values the company at $31.27 billion. It has a PE ratio of 5.37. And when I had a look at the average PE ratio of the oil industry in the USA, it seemed to be about 34.7, so this is trading well below. But you'll have to check multiple sources. A lot of sources I'm seeing about Devon Energy are giving different figures at the moment. It's not very helpful, but that's all I have. So I'll leave the financial summary up here if you want to read through it. Bit of bad news, a little bit of good news. This part here, dividend per share decreased from $2.27 to 40 cents. So that looks very bad, but this 40 cents here, the current 10% yield accounts for this. So over the last year, Devon Energy's profit margin is about 31%, which is good. And over the last quarter is about 20%, which is also good. Devon Energy's annual debt to assets ratio is about 53%, which is also very good. And over the last quarter is the same, about 53%. So they fully own $23 billion in assets, and they owe money on about $12 billion in assets. And their annual cash flow from operating is about $8.5 billion. From investing is about negative $5 billion. And from financing is about negative $4.2 billion. So we'll have a look at their long-term graph. And it's good as well. It gives a much better indication of where we are at the moment, because this graph that Trading 212 gives is not the entire history. It seems to be just Trading 212's history. So this is about where we are now. And as you can see, 2020 was a horrendous year. I think it was the worst year for oil stocks in about 4 decades. So it was $6 on the 20th of March 2020. And if we go back here, it was about the same in 1992. So if you bought in 1992 and didn't sell anything, it would have hit the same value again in 2020. Would have been very disheartening, but there is dividends along the way as well, which you have to take in mind. But as we can see, we've had much harsher drops than this current one that we're having now. But it does look like it had a pretty bad downtrend from the 2008 crisis down to 2020. This is lockdown here. It's actually quite small of a drop compared to most other stocks in lockdown. And then when all the prices of oil and gas and everything around the world went through the roof, a lot of energy companies' profits shot up. So now I think we're seeing a little bit of a fall out of that, but I honestly have no idea what way it could go. So the range in price over the last year is between $44 and $78, so it's getting pretty close to the lowest it's been in the last calendar year. Dividend yield is a nice 10%. The figures given here are slightly different. They seem to vary depending on every source, so it's not particularly helpful, but it's what we're given. It's the hand that we're dealt, as they say. But we'll have a quick look now at the dividend history of Devon Energy. This website is called Dividend Max, very good for dividend information. But we can see here that the last dividend they paid was a special dividend. It's saying that the yield at the moment is 1.7%. I don't know where they're getting that from. So from the start of 2023, there was the normal quarterly and then a special. Then there was also another quarterly in June and a special. We have a quarterly in September and a special in September. So although they have been making a lot of money, they have been dishing a lot of that back out as dividends to shareholders. We can see that there's special dividends in between the quarterly ones very, very regularly. So this seems to be a stock that likes giving out a lot of its spare cash. Now, it's one good thing to say about them, although they are profiteering in a lot of places. They did have a horrendous couple of years leading up to 2020. You can't stop oil coming out of the ground. So when the price of oil was so low, it actually went negative at one stage. So a lot of companies were paying people to take their own oil off them. Anyway, from the very bottom, this graph goes all the way back down to 2006, and it appears that they do raise the dividend pretty often. This looks as though that they had a stock split. Either that or they had a massive dividend drop. Oh yeah, 2008, that would make sense. As time goes on, the dividend gets higher and higher and higher, and they pay a lot of special dividends. Here's another huge drop. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as time goes on. I do have faith that they will continue dishing out as much of their cash as they see fit, but it is on a bit of a downtrend, so you could buy in now and it could go very red very quickly. So bear that in mind when you're making a decision. So I'll do a quick rundown of all the details I've given about Devon Energy, and you can make your own mind up on it. So to summarize, Devon Energy stock, ticker symbol is DVN, currently costs $45 per share. The next ex-dividend date is the 8th of December. Currently pays a 10% dividend yield. Pays about 20 cents per share 4 times a year with very frequent special dividends. They have an annual profit margin of about 30%, an annual debt to assets ratio of about 50%, and overall looks like a pretty worthwhile investment. Although it is on a downtrend, if you do put money in, I would expect that it will probably fall lower. I might wait a little while before I put some in myself. But anyway, let me know what you think, and if you have Devon Energy yourself, let me know how it's been doing for you. Mine did quite well. 88% up, but it's on the way down and it's a good chance for me to scoop up some more.